The room fell quiet before anyone realized it had happened. Singapore, 2019. A neutral training facility built for international defense exchanges. Steel walls, white lights, no banners, no flags, just men and women from different countries, standing shoulder to shoulder, waiting. Not for a fight, for clarity. This was supposed to be routine, a closed-door demonstration during an international close-quarters combat conference. No press, no spectacle, just experts comparing systems. But something in the air felt heavier than protocol. Conversations slowed, footsteps echoed longer than they should have. As if everyone sensed that whatever was about to happen would not end the way it began. Among the instructors stood an Israeli Krav Maga expert, a man whose name carried weight in military and security circles. Decades of experience, combat-proven methodology. He had trained elite units, advised governments, and taught a system designed for one purpose only: survival. Direct, efficient, uncompromising. When he spoke, people listened. Across the room, almost unnoticed at first, stood a Filipino instructor. No entourage, no display, no attempt to draw attention. He wore a plain training uniform, slightly worn at the edges, and carried himself with the kind of calm that comes not from confidence alone, but from familiarity with pressure. He wasn't there to represent a brand or a doctrine. He was there because someone had invited him. That was all. When the topic of blade defense came up, the Israeli expert didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His words were measured, almost academic, which somehow made them cut deeper. Filipino knife systems, he said, were often misunderstood. Overly pattern-based, too fluid, too reliant on tradition. Beautiful to watch perhaps, but questionable under real stress. In modern combat, he explained, simplicity mattered. Aggression mattered. Systems had to be stripped of cultural excess and rebuilt for today's threats. What worked in villages and duels, he implied, did not always translate to contemporary violence. Some in the room nodded. Others stayed neutral. No one objected. The reasoning was familiar. Filipino martial arts were often praised for history, not for relevance. Respected as culture, not as cutting-edge combat science. Too traditional, too informal, not standardized, not world-class in the way modern military systems define the term. The Filipino instructor listened without interruption. His face didn't change. No tightening of the jaw, no defensive smile. He had heard versions of this before, in conferences, in training halls, in conversations where his art was reduced to stick patterns and ceremonial movement. He waited, hands loosely at his sides, eyes attentive. When the room settled, he spoke, quietly, respectfully. He acknowledged the Israelis' experience, the effectiveness of Krav Maga, its proven record. Then he asked a simple question, not a challenge, not a provocation. Would it be possible, he asked, to demonstrate? Not to argue theory, not to debate history, just to show how his system approached the same problem. There was a pause, the kind that feels longer because everyone is calculating what it means. The Israeli expert agreed, confidently. There was no reason not to. His system thrived in demonstrations, especially against what he believed would be predictable movement. To set a baseline, he went first. The scenario was straightforward. A realistic knife attack, close distance, sudden aggression, the kind of violence instructors warned students about. The Israeli moved decisively. He stepped in, redirected the attack, controlled the weapon arm, delivered forceful counters. The sequence was fast, powerful, clean. It ended with the attacker neutralized. The room responded with approval. This was familiar, reassuring. This was what modern efficiency looked like. Then it was the Filipino's turn. He didn't rush forward. He didn't mirror the technique. In fact, for a brief moment, it looked like he was doing almost nothing. A small shift of weight, a subtle change in angle. His hands moved, but not with speed meant to impress. With timing meant to disappear. The attacker lunged and missed. Not because the Filipino was faster, but because he wasn't where the attack expected him to be. The blade passed through empty space. The Filipino's body rotated just enough to let momentum continue, while his hand guided the attacker's wrist offline. No clash, no collision, just redirection. In the same motion, the Filipino's training blade touched the attacker's throat, then the ribs, then the lower back. Not strikes, placements, each one precise, each one final. If the blade had been real. The entire exchange lasted seconds, fewer than before. But when it ended, no one clapped. They didn't know how to react yet. Confusion replaced confidence. The room asked for another scenario, a different angle, a tighter space. The Israeli went again. His responses were effective, but each defense required commitment, strength, willingness to absorb risk to end the threat quickly. The Filipino responded again, and again the same pattern emerged. He didn't overpower attacks, he dissolved them. He didn't chase control. He occupied space so intelligently that control appeared naturally. Where the Israeli system forced solutions, the Filipino system allowed them to appear. What looked simple began to feel unsettling. This wasn't minimalism born from lack. It was restraint born from understanding. The explanation came slowly, as observers began to see what they had missed. Filipino blade systems were not built around winning exchanges. They were built around avoiding them. Angles weren't decorative. They were survival geometry. Flow wasn't aesthetic. It was continuous problem solving. The movements weren't rehearsed sequences. They were responses refined through generations of lived encounters, where injury meant death and improvisation meant survival. At the heart of it was a Filipino concept often overlooked: adaptability, not as a slogan, but as a necessity. Filipino combat evolved in environments without rules, without backup, without guarantees. It adapted to terrain, to numbers, to weapons changing mid-fight. It favored awareness over dominance, precision over force, survival over statement. This wasn't about looking calm. It was about staying alive. The moment of shock didn't arrive with drama. It arrived with silence. The Israeli expert stopped watching the attacker. He started watching the Filipino. Not with skepticism anymore, with focus. He asked questions, not defensively, curiously, the kind of curiosity that comes when certainty cracks. Finally, he spoke. He acknowledged what he had seen, not as an exception, as a gap in his own understanding. He admitted that what he had dismissed as unrefined was, in fact, deeply refined. That what appeared basic was actually advanced in a way modern systems were only beginning to articulate. The respect in the room shifted direction. Word of the demonstration traveled beyond the facility. quietly at first, clips shared, notes exchanged, then openly. Training programs asked questions. Researchers reached out. Instructors from other countries began looking toward the Philippines, not for tradition, but for insight. Not because Filipino systems needed validation, but because the world finally noticed what had always been there. The video didn't go viral because of spectacle. It spread because of recognition. Because millions saw something familiar reflected in a different form. The experience of being underestimated, of carrying depth that doesn't announce itself. The story wasn't about one system defeating another. It was about what happens when simplicity is mistaken for lack. When quiet discipline is mistaken for weakness. When mastery doesn't need to prove itself loudly to be real. The Filipino instructor returned home. To the same training hall. The same students. The same principles. Nothing changed for him. But something changed for everyone watching. Because sometimes the most advanced knowledge doesn't come from the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it comes from the one who waited patiently, understood deeply, and let results speak. And long after the demonstrations ended, one truth remained. What is underestimated is not always behind. Sometimes it's just ahead in a way the world hasn't learned to see yet.